The dauntingly fast 4.2-mile Hockenheim ring near Heidelberg, which largely comprises two gigantic curves cut out of solid forest with 3 chicanes to slow the cars and joined by a sinuous series of bends overlooked by huge concrete grandstands holding over 80,000 frenzied spectators. Dominating the race before it even starts is yesterday's practice crash when World Championship leader Didier Pironi went off in his Ferrari at over 160 miles an hour, leaving him with badly broken legs. Thankfully, the news today is that Pironi is much better after extensive surgery. Alain Prost that we're looking at now, 45 laps, 190 miles to go. And it's going to be very, very demanding because it is getting increasingly hot here at Hockenheim. Now, it looks to me as though everybody is running well. There is still a couple of officials right at the back of the grid, but they are holding them a long, long time on the grid. The drivers won't be very happy with this. It's green and go. And it is René Arnoux who leads from Alain Prost as they lead the stadium and go up the first of the long straights into the first chicane, which has been very much tightened, and we're watching and hoping that there's going to be no coming together at the chicane.
Yes, well, a very good clean start. We do have a bit of a question mark over Alain Prost's car. He had trouble in the warm-up with a misfire, and there is Nelson Piquet nosing past Prost. I don't know whether Prost's engine's all right. They got it fixed in the warm-up. It appeared to run all right, but it must have been a bit of a question mark. Tambay already up into 4th place. He was quick in the warm-up this morning, and the Ferrari is really going very well indeed. Whoops, somebody going a little bit wide there, but they're all relatively safely through.
And De Cesaris is in 5th position, so it is Arnoux leading Piquet, with Prost in 3rd position, Patrick Tambay there in 4th position, De Cesaris is 5th, and that was Brian Hinton coming up in the Tyrrell in 6th position. And I should establish immediately that we are expecting at least one of the 2 Brabhams to come in and refuel at roughly half distance. We were expecting this in the British Grand Prix, and now Piquet is challenging Arnoux, the leader, and it could well be that Piquet is only running on half-full tanks with soft tyres, in which case he could well take the lead as he comes into the motordrome itself in front of those 80,000 Germans. And if they see a Brabham with a German BMW engine leading, they will really go berserk. But it's not, because as we watch them through, in the lead still is René Arnoux. Behind him is Nelson Piquet. They're coming through to complete a lap. And there you see the positions. It is Arnoux, 1 lap completed, 44 to go. Piquet in 2nd position as they sprint across the line. And in 3rd position it is Alain Prost. 4th is Tambay. In 5th position it is De Cesaris. 6th is Patrese. 7th is Alboreto. And in 8th position is Eddie Cheever in the very much improved Colbert.
Piquet looking at every side to try and get round Arnoux. If he is running half tanks, he'll want to get Arnoux out of the way so that he can get away and build up the necessary lead that he's going to have. And he's got through. Piquet has made it past René Arnoux. He's now in the lead, but he needs to be in to start establishing enough of a gap if he's capable of it to cover his pit stop. In fact, in France, the French Grand Prix, he was coming in on the very next lap before his engine blew up. So we were robbed at the sight of the pit stop. We're all fascinated to see how that goes.
And in my enthusiasm, I wrongly attributed Brian Hinton with being up in about 6th position. Apologies to Michele Alboreto, who of course it was. We are now on lap 2. And Nelson Piquet, who is leading in the Brabham BMW. And this time the crowd will see the Brabham with the BMW German engine in the lead when it comes into the stadium. And I expect an enormous roar from those 80,000 throats. And Piquet needs to establish a lead of about a second a lap if he is to build up enough of a lead to come in, slow down, stop, take on tyres and fuel, which they practiced today in just over, believe it or not, 11 seconds, if he is to build up enough lead to go on and win.
Well, the way he's handled this half a lap that he's been in the lead, he's streaking away at the moment. Murray, he's already 2 seconds to the good, and he's only been in the lead for half a lap. So if he can maintain that sort of a pace, relative to the others. He's going to be there. Ricardo Patrese, who's also moved up to take his rightful place amongst the turbocharged group, rather than he was a little bit mixed up, didn't get a very good start, and had to fight past few normally aspirated cars. One car coming into the pit, I can't see who it is.
Eddie Cheever into the pits, and that's very hard luck because Cheever was well up in practice. They've got the Talbots going very much better than they have in the races so far this year. And Cheever with Lafitte was well up because Cheever was in 12th position. And as you see, the Talbot is up on the jacks. The V12 Matra engine behind it is not being looked at, but it's obviously skirt trouble because they're replacing a skirt panel on the near side of the Talbot. It is René Arnoux in second place behind Nelson Piquet, and Piquet is already coming up to catch and lap the arrows of Mauro Baldi, who has obviously joined the race. And you can see the gap yourselves between race leader, world champion, number one, Nelson Piquet, the man who won in Brazil but was disqualified, won in Canada, was second in Holland, and is in 7th place in the World Championship, and he's catching Baldi. And there is a distinct ripple from the crowd as they see the Brabham with its BMW turbo engine come into the stadium. And Piquet is really pushing it very, very hard indeed. He is out of the Sachs curve, into the Elf curve, now into the straight past the enormous grandstand. And the gap between Nelson Piquet in the lead and in second place the Renault of René Arnoux, with Prost's car already sounding a bit lumpy to me, but Piquet is leading by 3.7 seconds. Elio De Angelis is in the pits in front of me. I don't know what the problem is. And into the pits too comes Manfred Winkelhock. And the German crowd will be very unhappy about that. And it looks to me as though he's out of the race. Look, he's levering himself out of the car. And the crowd will be enormously disappointed. Well, let us all hope that the Brabham BMW is going to get well past the half distance, because it is at the half distance that Nelson Piquet is scheduled to come in and change fuel. And now the gap. Patrick Tambay, as we look at Jarier out. Jarier is out, and Patrick Tambay is up into 3rd place. It is Patrick Tambay, number 27, in his 4th Grand Prix for Ferrari. And as I have said before, and I'll say it again, all the hopes of Ferrari and Italy as far as the Maranello concern are concerned rest on Patrick Tambay's shoulders now. He's right up with the second place man René Arnoux, and Piquet is now 11.5 seconds ahead of Arnoux. There is Arnoux in the yellow and white Renault, who seems to be able to hold off Tambay. Behind Tambay in 4th position you see Alain Prost. He is ahead of the 5th place man Ricardo Patrese, and the gap between Arnoux and Tambay is a little under a second. Between Tambay and Prost it is some 3 seconds. Prost is some 6 seconds ahead of Patrese, who is 5th, and Tambay is certainly much closer to René Arnoux than a second.
Ferrari, I would have said, is probably slightly slower on the straight line than the Renaults, because he's getting the advantage of the slipstream behind the Renaults, but Tambay making relatively little impression on the straight. He'll have to get himself in perfect position to get past. He had a bit of a struggle getting past Alain Prost, and he's now seems to be presenting the same problem. He's dropped back a little bit through the stadium section. It's the corner that they're approaching now. He needs to do really well. He's got to do this one very well. The right-hander, third gear right-hander, to get onto the straight well, but he's not really close enough right now.
Well, you saw yourselves there what the gap on the caption was, but the gap between the leader, Piquet, and the battle for second position, that is to say Arnoux and Tambay, with Prost thundering along in 4th position, and they are now on lap 10 with 9 completed, is 14.2 seconds. Piquet then 14.2 seconds ahead of this battle with the Ferrari of Patrick Tambay, the 33-year-old driver from Cannes in his 53rd Grand Prix, with a 3rd place and 2 4th places. And the man who is called Prince Charming, that is Andrea De Cesaris, the young Italian, in 6th position. He was in 6th position, and that means that John Watson now will be on the leaderboard, because the 6th place man is in with 1 World Championship point. And here is Tambay, up and passing, is he? Yes! Patrick Tambay, who has moved ahead of Prost in the Renault, has now taken René Arnoux in the Renault. And the question is, can the Ferrari close the gap between itself and the Brabham BMW Turbo, driven by Nelson Piquet, that we expect to come in and make a pit stop round about lap 23, close up that gap enough to be able to pull away from Piquet when he has come in and retain the lead? Well, I'll give you the gap now, because there is Piquet going through, having completed 10 laps. And he's about halfway to his pit stop, if our guess, and it has to be an educated guess, is right. And Patrick Tambay is now starting to close up on Elio De Angelis and lap him. The gap is 16.05 seconds. And as you see, Piquet has put up the fastest lap so far, 1 minute 54, which is about on target for the warm-up session speeds. Alain Prost is coming into the pits. Alain Prost, who was in 4th position, and there he is into the pits. We've seen this so many times this season. The French Grand Prix was a notable exception when the 2 Renaults of Arnoux and Prost finished 1st and 2nd. But time after time, Grand Prix after Grand Prix, we have seen the Renaults have some trouble or other and come into the pits during the race after doing extremely well in practice. Well, it looks as though exactly the same thing is happening again, and that means that John Watson is moving up into 5th position, indeed has already done so. Now, Nelson Piquet, that we are looking at, is leading. In 2nd position, it is Patrick Tambay. And now into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese, who was in 4th position. Now, that is significant, because Patrese in the Brabham BMW, there he is this a refuel job? No, it looks to me as though the smoke from the engine means there's trouble. But it does at least enable you to see the way the Brabham mechanics are kitted out. And Patrese is out. There you see Riccardo Patrese out of his car, and the BMW turbo engine, I presume, has blown. I don't think it was anything else. There was that telltale puff of smoke from the back.
Yes, it was still running when he came in, but whatever the trouble is, it's obviously terminal. They're wheeling the car away into the garage to get the pit clear and ready for Piquet's anticipated scheduled stop. So that's an unfortunate thing for Brabham's and their BMW engine, which has gone so very, very well, but is still yet to find its full race reliability.
With Pironi leading the World Championship, and of course out of it now with his terrible leg injuries, as we look at Nelson Piquet. John Watson, who is leading 5 points ahead of Alain Prost, who is out of the race, and 6 points ahead of Niki Lauda, who didn't start. John Watson is in the points in 4th position. So if John Watson can keep going where he is, or even improve his position, he will be very much improving his World Championship chances. And as you can see, he's fairly streaking through the field. That is the 2nd place man, Patrick Tambay, who is now some 23 seconds behind Piquet. So it certainly does look, James, as though Piquet is on half tank and is on top power.
Yes, I would think so, with that considerable speed advantage. And sadly, from the racing and entertainment point of view, it very much looks at his present rate of progress, he may well be able to pit stop and get out almost, if not, still in the lead. He would need probably sort of a lead of something like 35 seconds for a fully, and then a very successful pit stop is about the sort of time we could expect him to lose on the road. And at the moment, he's well on schedule for that. 23 seconds to the good already, and still going away at over a second a lap. About a second and a half a lap he's averaging, which is a pretty convincing margin. Tambay there, just coming into the picture now, chasing pretty forlornly in second place, but at the same time, he's working hard to pull away from René Arnoux Renault, which he's managing to do. He has about 5 seconds over the Renault, and then after following René Arnoux, there's a pretty big gap to John Watson. He's nearly 30 seconds behind René Arnoux, which really does go to underline the immense superiority of the turbocharged cars. And whilst it's very, very impressive, it's a great shame that we haven't got a full field of cars that have at least fairly similar power output and performance, because then we see some close racing, and it really hasn't been very good these last 3 Grand Prix.
Well, the Abstand, the gap between Piquet in the lead and Tambay in second place in the Ferrari, you saw there was 24 seconds. As Piquet leaves the stadium and goes into the first long drag through the forest, I've got the stopwatch running on him. He's still the fastest, 1 minute 54.035, an incredible 133 miles an hour. And the gap between Piquet and Tambay is now up to 26 seconds, with Arnoux some 6 seconds behind Tambay in third position. John Watson some 28 seconds behind Arnoux in fourth place. Keke Rosberg 17 seconds behind Watson in fifth place. Michele Alboreto 6 seconds behind Rosberg in seventh place. In sixth position, and out goes Piquet. My goodness, it seems that the Brabhams are fated, and he has hit Eliseo Salazar, and he's furious. The Brazilian and the Colombian driver, I couldn't help it, said, and take that. Oh my goodness. Well, Nelson Piquet, understandably livid with rage. He has seen his chances of winning the German Grand Prix literally spin out, and there's Bernie Ecclestone maybe being told, Eliseo Salazar. But obviously at the chicane, Piquet out, Salazar out, and that means to say that Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari leads his first Grand Prix.
Yes, and that really is a tragedy. Piquet, of course, is absolutely furious, and I don't blame him. To be pushed out by an inexperienced backmarker is really a tragic way to lose a Grand Prix. It's happened to most of us. A lot of drivers, one time or another. Here we see how it happened. Piquet going up the inside to overtake Salazar. Salazar just driving into him. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Quite what Salazar thought he was doing, and I have to say that is an absolute disgrace by Salazar, and I'm just about as angry as I think Piquet is, because he's robbed us of the only interest in the race. Once again, we're robbed of seeing Brabhams in the pits, and Salazar really should be taken to task over that. It was absolutely disgraceful piece of driving, and Piquet is totally justified in however angry he gets. And I think it's quite frankly, Salazar was sorry, lucky not to be beaten up.
There is René Arnoux going out of the stadium in second place. 26 laps completed. There's John Watson. We haven't seen him for a long time. Now, John Watson, winner of the British Grand Prix last year, see where he is now to score 4 points. They're going up onto the curve.